Pat? Mr. Riley? John Starks is still on the floor. I don't think he heard you call him out. Oh, you didn't? On purpose? Huh. Pat Riley's decision cost the Knicks a championship. It was a big deal. While I have you, gonna plug the Patreon real quick. We're giving you new cool stuff every week. I'd like to see Santa pull that off. Pat Riley was a good coach. I'm not the first person to say it. And he was very good for the Knicks. He came on in '91 and took over a stagnant playoff team, failing to capitalize on Patrick Ewing before he got too old. And 3 years later, they were in the finals. So yeah, good coach. He transformed the Knicks into a bruising, hustling, work harder, foul harder, blue-collar team. They were defensive specialists operating under a no layups allowed rule, aka smash him. Another thing Riley did to bring the Knicks success, he elevated this guy. Before Riley took over, John Starks was a fringe player who many thought should be cut. But the coach liked how hard John Starks played, and he knew how to bring the guard's talents to the forefront. Minutes and freedom with the ball. It was risky. Starks had obvious limitations. In particular, he was a streaky shooter. But hey, that just meant he could get hot quick, hit one, and go on a streak. Riley took the risk. In '92, Starks saw increased minutes. In '93, he was a starter, the second leading scorer, and legitimately challenged Michael Jordan in the Eastern Conference Finals. In '94, our year in question, he was an all-star and the beating heart of the Eastern Conference champion Knicks. Accordingly, he stepped up in these finals when Patrick Ewing, New York's first leading scorer, struggled to produce against Houston's all-star center Hakeem Olajuwon. Game 1 wasn't Starks' best, but his uncle had just passed away, and games 2 through 6 were incredible. He was Mr. Fourth Quarter. I'm talking about games 2 through 6, remember? He nearly won the title with a buzzer beater in Game 6, but Olajuwon got a piece. However, we are now talking about Game 7. And in Game 7, Pat Riley was faced with a problem. Mr. Fourth Quarter was ice cold, displaying the unfortunate side of being a streaky shooter. With 6 minutes left and the Knicks down 5, Starks bricked 2 good looks in a row. 3 good looks in a row. That last one giving Houston an easy transition bucket, a 7-point lead, and momentum. Meanwhile, look at Starks' face. He looks like someone who needs to come out of the game. The other team was wondering why he was still in. Everyone at home was wondering why he was still in. So why was he still in? What was Pat Riley thinking? Let's try to find out. My first hypothesis, Pat believed in blind loyalty to his guys. Riley has written about choking in a book, very official, and he seems to think that the antidote to choking is screeching loud confidence that drowns out any possible doubts your brain might try to think up. And if we look to Riley's past, his philosophies seem to be stick to your guys in a shooting slump. He said this of James Worthy's shooting dip in the '86 Western Conference Finals, and that's how he'd coached John Starks thus far. In those early days when he decided he wanted to give Starks more minutes, he accepted that sometimes the streaky shooter would lose the game. He called him feast or famine, and thought the feast was worth the occasional famine. Probably didn't think the famine would come during Game 7 of the NBA Finals, but here we are. And although I'm the one who proposed this hypothesis, I don't really think it's correct. Riley might really like blind confidence, but he's adaptable like a good coach should be. Earlier in the '94 season, he switched up his starting backcourt, including moving Starks to the bench, because his team was in a funk. And by the way, it worked, so the guy's not impossibly rigid as a rule. And Riley isn't blindly going with Starks. There are reasons to stick with him, mainly games 4, 5, and 6. Which brings me to my second hypothesis. Riley is loyal to his guys with his eyes wide open, seeing clearly, not blind at all. There's that good part of being a streaky shooter. One shot can be the domino to becoming Mr. Fourth Quarter. We saw it in games 4, 5, and 6. In the years since losing the title, Riley has defended himself, saying at the time he felt Starks was on the verge of knocking down that first domino. And come on, Starks almost single-handedly won Game 6. That's a guy to stick with. And look, on a zoomed-out scale, sticking with Starks worked this very series. He had one bad game, Riley didn't bench him, and then he had good games 2 through 6. The kid can bounce back. Devil's advocate / angry Knicks fans might say it's hard to compare game-to-game recovery with the pressure of recovering during a Game 7, and also, why didn't Riley rest him at least a few minutes? He did that in Game 1. Let's look to hypothesis number 3. Riley didn't have good options to sub in for John Starks. Doc Rivers would have been good, but Riley literally didn't have him. Rivers was still injured when Riley had to freeze his playoff roster, so Rivers was left off, even though by the time the finals rolled around, he was healthy. Bummer. Well, how about Hubert Davis? The second-year guard had started in place of Starks in the regular season when the team needed that refresh, and when Starks was injured. Oh, did I mention that those great playoff performances were not long after a knee injury? The kid's got heart. Is that why Pat Riley left him in? Back to Davis. He shot really well in the regular season. And he hit clutch free throws to win Game 5 in the Chicago series, so why not get him in this Game 7? Well, his shooting percentage dipped in the playoffs, and also he made a mistake that made Riley turn his back on him for the rest of the year. Even with his scoring dipping, Davis still got big minutes until Game 4, Eastern Conference Finals against Indiana, 6.8 seconds left, Pacers up 6, Hubie lets a pass through his fingers. Season over for Davis. Blind or not, Davis earned no sort of loyalty from Riley. In Game 7, while the commentators are marveling at Pat leaving Starks out there, they mention that Davis had lost the coach's trust. So, who else was around? Rolando Blackman. This is who teammates, critics, fans, analysts, and at this point, even Pat Riley himself think should have gone in the game for John Starks. The Knicks traded for Blackman in the summer of '92. He had had a great career with the Mavericks before that, and he was best known as a shooter. Upon his acquisition, Riley himself said Blackman could deliver relief jumpers on command. Blackman didn't end up getting huge minutes on the Knicks. He was more of a finesse player and less of a bruiser, and Riley preferred Rivers and Davis. Blackman was 35 in these finals, but he could still shoot. Had a game winner in the '93 Eastern Conference semis. So why didn't Pat Riley play him? There is a theory that it was personal. Blackman had asked to bring his wife on the road for the finals, which is against Riley's rules. He asked in front of the team. It was an awkward, tense situation and likely pissed off Riley. But come on, that can't really be the reason, right? Listen, this sucks about him, but Pat Riley really took his no wives allowed rule seriously. Riley referred to players' wives and children as peripheral opponents. It's rude. He'd have meetings with the families before the season, essentially telling the wives to leave their husbands alone. Take out the trash yourself and let them sleep around on the road. In 1986, when Byron Scott got married over All-Star break, Riley benched him for 12 games. In 1987, the Lakers lost Game 3 to Boston by 6 points, and Riley was like, "It's 'cause 2 of your wives paid their own way and sat in the stands." So Riley is very weird about the wife thing. Weird enough to leave a bricklaying Starks in Game 7 to finish making a fucking Eiffel Tower out of bricks? I don't know. Blackman didn't even break the rule, he just pushed back on it. And there is another possible reason Riley didn't play Blackman. And it's the one Riley says is true. Simply, the coach got stuck in a short playoff rotation. Historically, Riley had a short playoff rotation philosophy. In '93, he explained it as such. You rotate 8, you play 7, you use 6, you trust 5. This year, working backwards, we have his 5, his 6, his 7 and 8. There was even a 9 when Ewing needed a breather. But there was no Rolando Blackman. I mean, superficial minutes, sure, but compared to the regular season, Blackman was not playing. He hadn't played since Game 3 of the conference finals, and he only played 4 minutes then. Now, assistant at the time Jeff Van Gundy said Blackman was injured and not good anymore. Blackman refutes that. The injury was over and done with, and actually, that theory of Van Gundy's kind of cost him his career. And there's reason to believe Blackman here. Riley admits the mistake, the biggest one of his career. He should have played Rolando. He's handwritten letters to Blackman explaining such sentiment, but Blackman's not about to write back. And I don't blame him. So, did the coach really just get stuck in his short rotation philosophy? Look over at the bench, see a shooter, and say, no, he's not for playoffs? I don't buy it, and I don't think Riley does either. Because he also said years later that he knew Rolando was fresh, but something made him still believe Starks was about to get hot. I still don't think we've hit on what that something was. Like, even though it's painful, let's look at Starks' face again. He does not look like someone who's about to get hot. He looks like someone who is about to cry. I feel a lump in my throat just looking at him. Though I am famously empathetic. That's my dog. The broadcasters are saying it's not Starks' night, which is the nicest possible way of saying what was happening. Fans at home were screaming much more vile things at their televisions, but Riley still believed? Why? Hypothesis number 4, Riley loved John Starks like a son and could not turn his back on him. Riley and Starks had a special relationship. The coach has said Starks reminded him of himself as a player more than anyone else ever has. He said he'd want John Starks in a foxhole with him, which is one of the few more dire situations than a Game 7. And Pat Riley, famously hard-nosed coach, one might even call a jerk, was nice to John Starks at practice. To the extent that Starks' teammates called him Riley's son. On his way to Game 7, Riley turned to his close friend and said, "I know 3 people who are showing up for this game. You, me, and John." He really liked John Starks. So, could Riley not bear to give up on his son while he clunked shot after shot? Maybe? Look, it's impossible to be inside Riley's head in the moment. My time machine doesn't work, I'm a different consciousness, there's all kinds of reasons. But I imagine his decision was a combination of all these hypotheses. All this stuff was rattling around in his oiled-up head while he watched Game 7 fly away. His philosophies of overconfidence and loyalty to his players, Stark's recent performances and his general ability to get hot quick, his own short rotation strategy, Hubie Davis's drop ball, and the fatherly feelings he had towards Starks. And I'm not sure what carried the most weight, but we all saw the result. Letting Starks shoot and miss until New York was dead. Pat Riley's decision to leave John Starks in the game was a big deal. Thanks for watching, everyone. I hope you enjoyed watching this as much as I enjoyed making it. Or as much as I enjoy sitting on the stoop when it's not too hot nor too cold. For Secret Base, I'm Clara Morris. Good night and good game.